I'm the fifth one? Okay, all right. But today we are going to hear about everybody. Anish, CEO of Soleno Therapeutics. Round of applause for Anish.
Designated seating?
No, just anywhere, Anish. Yeah, please have a seat. Shalabh, Jagat, everyone. Yeah, Shalabh is the CEO of Unicisive, founder. Please come. Round of applause. Yes, Jagat. Arvik Therapeutics, founder, CEO, also past president of EPPIC. And yes, please, Seema. She founded a company earlier in her career, FarmQuest, and then made a different turn. So we're going to hear from all four of them today. And I see people coming in. Thank you. Yes, grab your coffee. Come in. So let's start. Let me ask them to introduce each of you and your company a little bit. Let's start with a quick minute introduction. Anish, please.
Thanks, Sanjeev. And firstly, I want to thank EPPIC for asking me to come again here. It's been a while, and it's great to see the organization being as alive as it is. So thank you. I'm Anish Bhatnagar. I'm the CEO of a company called Soleno Therapeutics. We are in the rare disease space. We have a late-stage asset for a rare disease called Prader-Willi syndrome. We are currently in review with the FDA, have a PDUFA date of the end of the year. So it's been an interesting journey. My involvement with EPPIC goes back many years. I used to be a president. I can't remember exactly when, but that was a long time ago. But it was a fun time then, and it's great to be back. So thanks, Sanjeev.
Thank you. Shalabh?
Thank you. As part of EPPIC, I was a part of executive committee. Like Anish, I don't remember exact years, but it's been a while. Like Mahendra said, when I moved to Bay Area, it was one organization that helped me a lot to get to know local entrepreneurial community. And I have personally benefited from a lot of you by getting your thoughts, your advice. I'm a founder and CEO of a company called Unicisive. It's a clinical stage publicly traded biotechnology company that is focused on treatment of kidney diseases. We have 2 drugs in development. Lead drug is currently, like Anish's company, is in the review process. We filed our NDA a couple of weeks ago. We expect to hear back from FDA shortly. Our drug is focused on treatment of patients who are on dialysis but have a high phosphate. For those of you who may or may not know about dialysis patients, as you know, these are patients who are on end stage of kidney diseases. Once a patient is on dialysis, dialysis takes care of a lot of other toxic products but does not take care of phosphate. And phosphate then combines with calcium, and people die from heart attack, which is an outcome because of high phosphate, as well as fractures and bone pain. This is a pretty big problem in the US and globally. By way of background, I'm a physician, trained and practiced in New York City, and then went to get a finance degree. I have worked with biotech companies. I was an analyst on Wall Street covering biotech stocks. Then I covered pharma stocks and moved to Bay Area in late 2008. I worked for Genentech, and from there I founded a few companies. This is my 3rd company, and again, really appreciate the chance to talk with all of you. Thank you.
Great. Jagat?
All right. Oh, maybe I'm too loud. I can proudly say I'm a true product of EPPIC. I landed in Bay Area in 2000, actually, like a postdoc at Stanford. Then happened to go to Genentech. I was doing my postdoc. 2001, I attended first EPPIC event as a volunteer. And I think that time it was Sunil Arabal, he was the president. And then Ram Mandalam became president. That time I was actually volunteering, actually. Then after that, Anish was the president. I was the assistant treasurer. That was actually 2006 and 7. And yes, I know the whole history of EPPIC. Okay.
Wow.
Then Anula Jayasuriya was the president. That was 2008 and 9, and I was a treasurer. And Anula was a very interesting mentor I ever met at. She was the president, but she was traveling. She gave me opportunity to run the show, essentially. Then one day Nagesh called me. I said, why don't you become a president? And I said, I'm just a scientist. I don't know how to manage things. No, take it. So EPPIC gave me an opportunity to lead where I did not get that opportunity anywhere I was working. So that gives the leadership confidence I got from EPPIC. So I was the president 2010, 2011. Then they asked me to continue as the board chair, at 12 and 13. And again, one day, Nagesh called me, what are you doing at Genentech? You ran EPPIC so well. Just get out. He told me like this, get out. 10 years from now, what do you want to do? Think about it. EPPIC provides that wonderful mentors, by the way. And, I was doing extremely well, by the way, at Genentech. But you have to have a plan in place. You can't just go start a company and become a CEO, right? I was just a scientist there. I was running your EPPIC nonprofit. You know what? Let me start a new nonprofit organization. So I sort of faded away from EPPIC to start another nonprofit called Science Gurus, and that educates 4th grade to 12th grade, actually, and build next generation scientists. So that became a very popular phenomenon, actually. Then meanwhile, I took Nagesh's advice very seriously. I resigned from Genentech. Former EPPIC president, Ram Mandalam, called me, hey, come and join our company and start a new antibody division. You see, I never applied for any job anywhere, actually, till now, actually. This is the first time. So again, thanks to EPPIC. So I went and started a new company there. Within a company, a small division, and from idea to clinic, 5 people we managed, actually. So in order to take your idea to clinic, you don't need to have a big organization, basically. So that is the confidence I got it. So after that, I joined another company, a startup, and we closed that company within one and a half year because the idea is not right. That's when I thought, OK, let's start a company. So when we started a company, we pooled people from Genentech, EPPIC, Science Gurus, and started this new company called Arvic. I'll talk more about it later.
Fantastic. Great journey. And we have already heard that Seema is a co-founder of EPPIC. So Seema, please introduce.
This is so wonderful to hear all your stories, how EPPIC has really helped. This is the goal that we started EPPIC with, 4 of us, and Noor Jivani and Shabir Anik are here. Narmada Shenoy is not here, but the 4 of us started EPPIC for the same reasons. But we didn't realize, where it would go or how it would evolve. And so I'm so glad to hear these stories today, and it's so nice to come back to EPPIC after all these years. And thanks for roping me in the advisory board also. So looking forward to re-engaging with EPPIC. And so, we started EPPIC in 1999, and I also started FarmQuest in 1999. So EPPIC really helped me also. We did find people here who I worked with, who were engaged either as advisors or investors in the company. And FarmQuest's goal was actually doing data standards, electronic data standards for the FDA, drug submissions. And I'll talk more about it a little later. And so, after about, after 10 years or so is when I really wanted to make a switch and wanted to do something that I've always wanted to do, but completely different, which was getting into the nonprofit sector. And so after FarmQuest, I took a break, and where I was volunteering, and then finally found global health as an area where I really wanted to delve into and get deeply involved into. And in 2016 or so, actually, I went back to India, spent 6 years in India, working in public health, public maternal health, with Pronto International, where we worked with the Gates Foundation funding and worked in Bihar and UP mostly, those 2 states. In, basically the idea there was, or Gates Foundation was strengthening the health systems in the 2 states. And we were part of this whole core team where we were focused on maternal health, building the local capacity of the healthcare providers on how to manage complications and emergencies during childbirth. And we are still doing that We've gone beyond Bihar and UP into many other states. And that experience has been really, really incredibly rewarding for me. So I'm back in the US now, but I still do the same work. I travel to India on a regular basis every 2 to 3 months. And maybe we'll talk a little more about that in the Q&A session.
Great.
So that's my story. Yeah.
So, yeah, let's do a round of applause. This is 4 founders. How many in the room are entrepreneurs or would like to be entrepreneurs? And please, with a raise of hands. Wonderful. All of you will find their words of wisdom extremely useful. Let me start out with Anish. Anish, really congratulations to you and the Soleno team for submitting an NDA. FDA has accepted their NDA for priority review. It's in an extremely rare disease, Prader-Willi syndrome, epigenetic rare disease, where absolutely no drug exists. And if approved, it will be the first drug of its kind for that disease. So let me ask Anish, how did you go about founding Soleno? I knew you from Capnia, and then how did you find Soleno? Where did you find the assets? In some of the early days, we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it's a story. So I'll take you back a few years. I'm a physician by training. I obviously was born in India, grew up in India. I came here to do my residency and fellowship. And I was doing my fellowship at Penn in what was, at the time, very early radioimmunotherapy. So it was a National Cancer Institute grant. We were working with a pharma company in the NCI, early radioimmunotherapeutics for various cancers. And at the end of my fellowship years, I was looking for honest jobs in academic medicine when I got a call from a recruiter in California asking me if I would be interested in joining a company that was working on the first ever to be marketed radioimmunotherapy. I had no idea what that meant. I had never been to California. I came out for a day. I interviewed at this company in Palo Alto. The weather was great. It was winters in Philadelphia. And I was like, yeah, how bad could this be? So came out at the time. And my first several years were working in oncology, so biologics, small molecules, various indications. Wanted to do something different, so joined a company called Capnia that Sanjeev was referring to, which was working in the device diagnostic kind of space, licensed a diagnostic patent out of Stanford, which we productized, and very interesting product, approved in the US and EU, took the company public in 2014 to launch the drug, to the device, and realized in a couple of years that diagnostics are really hard. So decided I needed to do something different, go back to the drug world. And at the time, rare diseases were just taking off. This is about 2016 or so. And this underscores the importance of networking in EPPIC. And as Mahendra was saying, I introduced him to EPPIC when he came here. Mahendra introduced me to one of his portfolio companies that had this drug, which had very early data in the disease that we were working on, Prader-Willi syndrome. So they had 11 patients worth of data. They were having trouble raising money. We didn't have money either, but we came up with a creative solution. We acquired the asset, and that was in 2017 when we started Soleno. So from then, we've raised a fair bit of money. We managed to make a lot of progress in the development program. We had a glitch when COVID happened. We had a negative study, or the FDA thought it was a negative study. We then have since run a different phase 3 program. It's a creative trial design, and we have now submitted the NDA. So it's been quite the circuitous journey, but really happy to be where we are today. But just as with everything else, there is an underlying theme of networking and EPPIC in here.
Great. Thank you. And it is a test of one's grit, and that is something that Anish has shown. And you'll see that thread. Some have demonstrated it, and some have to demonstrate it. But that's a part and parcel of entrepreneur's journey. Let me ask Shalabh a question on your journey with Unicisive now. How did you build the asset? Because that's a question that all entrepreneurs have, either licensing it from university, getting it from a small company that has some early data. How did you build Unicisive, the assets that you have in the pipeline? And your initial experiences about the perils of the first funding, first million, as they say.
Yeah, so because Anish talked about his journey from East Coast to the West Coast, I'll start with that. I was, like Anish, I was doing training. I finished my training. I realized some of you know, I've talked about this very openly, that growing up in India, you get to choose almost anything you want to do as long as one of the two things. You choose the branch of engineering you want to do, or you choose the type of doctor you want to be. So I've had ample choices. My choices came to US, and I started my training in New York at NYU, and I realized that very quickly that I'm in a wrong side of business. And not so much that I didn't like seeing patients, but because the incentives, how medical care is administered, I realized that the metric of the success is very different than what I wanted to do. Going back to California, I came to California to Stanford Biodesign program, which Anurag is part of, in 2005. And I was working at the time at NYU, also working as an analyst on Wall Street. And I realized that I wanted to be part of entrepreneurial journey. 2008 is when I left. I was working for UBS, and I came to work for Genentech. And just building on the theme of growing up in India, and most of you, if you don't know, physicians, being a physician is one of the most secure jobs you can have. No matter what your friends, your relatives, and your cousins may tell you, physicians never have to worry about jobs. Yes, I've heard that they complain that, if you're a doctor, you're unemployed. Yeah, if your definition of unemployment is that you're looking at a really competitive salary in 50 square mile radius in Manhattan, and then you may find yourself not to have a job, but you can look outside 50 miles, you'll find a job. So leaving medicine to going to do something different is just hard. And Jagat talked about entrepreneurship. I got inspired by working at Genentech. I saw, Jagat mentioned about his work at Genentech. I was in the commercial side at Genentech, and I saw some of the work that Art Levinson and Sue Hellman were doing, and the true leadership that Art Levinson had built the organization. It left a real impression on me. Back in the days, if you joined Genentech, they used to talk about the foundation of Genentech, which was Herb Wire, Bob Swanson, how two people sat down over a beer and a burger. Every day that I used to drive to my office at Genentech, and I kept thinking to myself, getting stuck in traffic, is this all there is to life? And 2 years later, I realized I have what it takes, and I know what I know. Naivety sometimes can be helpful, sometimes can be dangerous, but I decided to leave Genentech to start my first company. Answering your question about Unicisive, there were two companies which we'll skip them for sake of time, but by the time I came to Unicisive, I had three things in my mind. Number one, for better or worse, and it's not I didn't want to raise a traditional venture capital round. Number two, I realized that if I wanted to raise money, I needed to have a portfolio of assets, not one asset. And along with that was the idea that I needed to have a late-stage program. And late stage is very relative. Some people have a drug that they've tested in animals, and that is late stage for them. There are others, they will say, Anish, in my company, we are not even late stage because we have filed NDA, the drug is not approved. So all that aside, I licensed the drug. Lead drug was a drug that was being developed by a publicly traded company at the time called Spectrum. I found out that they had this drug in treatment of kidney diseases. I'm not a nephrologist. You may wonder, why did I start a kidney treatment or kidney company? The thought was that I wanted to be in an area where a small amount of money can make a huge difference, and I felt that oncology was very competitive. Almost 80% of the biotech companies throughout history have been focused on oncology. So I wanted to avoid oncology. Nephrology was something that people didn't really love it, but also didn't really hate it. So I was like, okay, this is good enough. Brought two assets, founded the company. Building on that, the first set of investors were nephrologists.
Okay, wow.
Because I was able to talk to them, and they really saw an opportunity. Our story is very simple, which we can talk next time, but in next few questions. But the idea was something very simple that makes sense to nephrologists. So they became our investors, and that led us to a few $1 million. And then I did what I wanted to do, was to take the company to public market.
That's amazing. And now it's a publicly listed company, close to commercialization. Really amazing journey. Let's go to Jagat now. and those in cancer are very familiar with antibody drug conjugates. And Jagat, when he is at Genentech, Jagat is considered like the expert in antibody drug conjugates. But now you have assembled a really, a super all-star team at Arvic, and what they are working on are really is really the future. It's a better way to deliver chemotherapy, bivalent, tetravalent ADCs. Can you tell us a little bit, how did you build this all-star team, the technology platform, as well as the team?
Thank you, Sanjeev, for asking that question. My idea of wanting to start a company seeded in 2010, but between 2010 to 2021, I was wanting to gain experience how to do that. Because till 2014, I was at Genentech. And Genentech, you are given a plot or everything. And trying to leave Genentech and start a company, there is a huge gap to fill it. So for me, I had to go through that experience of what is like a startup culture like. So that was the reason I left Genentech to experience that itself for about 8 years, being in 3 different, one mid-sized company and 2 different startups, and then started Arvic in 2021. I told about the team. So we basically pooled the team from EPPIC and Genentech and my other nonprofit, Science Gurus, and I pooled all the mentors. And one thing I always do it, ever since I left my village back in 1983, with the objective of doing something different. Always, I want to do different from everyone else. That was my always goal. One thing I ensured wherever I go, I had a mentor. And whether it's in 10+2, or is it BS, or Masters, or PhD, or postdoc, or Genentech, or EPPIC, or Science Gurus, you name it, I have at least mentors around me. And my team is nothing but my mentors around me, actually, at Arvic, if you look at it. So that's what the team was built, essentially, and connecting all these dots. So technology platform, let's take it in the next question, basically.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you. No, it is quite amazing how they've even fundraised their early funds. But let me go to Seema. Seema, as you said, you co-founded FarmQuest in 1999, very early. That company, FarmQuest, I don't know if you guys know, but they were the one that developed the original SEND format, which is the standard for exchange of non-clinical data, which is now used all over the world for submissions. And that was developed by FarmQuest, and it was sold to Point Cross. But later, after that, as Yura said, you've pivoted into global health initiatives.
Right.
I know you mentioned you wanted to do something different. What was the drive after that? What led you to doing what you have done since then and now at Pronto?
Okay, so let me go back a little bit to the FarmQuest. I just wanted to tell, I don't know how many people here are in regulations or regulatory INDs, NDAs, whatever with the FDA. You know that in 2016, actually, it took quite some time for FDA to start mandating SEND standard. And we developed it in, starting, I think, 2002 to 2008. I was leading this consortium, the SEND consortium, with the FDA and with the pharma biotech company. And I still remember in the Mountain View office, where Anish, your office was also there in the same building, is where we sat in that conference room and we coined this term, standard for exchange of non-clinical data. So it is really, I think, very heartwarming to see that become a mandated standard. It took quite some time, but I think, finally it is a mandated standard, and I'm very happy about that. Now, talking about this change or the pivot that I had to this global health, this is not something that was abrupt. I always wanted to do that. And I think who talked about it? Shalabh talked about it, that in India, growing up, you had 2 options, right? Either you become a doctor or you become an engineer or some professional like that. I think if I had my choices from the time I was very young, I would have gone into the social sector from that time onward. So that was always there, that I always wanted to do that. But of course, we had to do science. We had to do something professional and, be financially secure. And that's why this whole pharmaceutical line for me. But I always had it in my mind that after I've reached a certain point where I feel comfortable to not bother too much about making any more money kind of thing, or be financially secure enough, that I'm going to get into the nonprofit sector. And that's what happened. After FarmQuest, I took actually almost 8 years off. And I was just volunteering because I wanted to get into the nonprofit sector. I didn't know how nonprofits worked, and I didn't know what areas, whether it's going to be health, whether it's going to be education, women's rights, any of that stuff. So 8 years I was just consulting, and it also happened to be the time when my kids were in high school, so I thought I was going to take some time off. And I was volunteering with women's organization, with youth organization, with education organization all over the Bay Area, just going and talking to people and engaging with different organizations. And one of them happened to be Oakland Children's Hospital. Somebody introduced me to a researcher there who was working in global health. And I said, I will work with her, volunteer my time to put her business plan together, her budget together, because I could do those things. And with her, I traveled to Ethiopia, to Nepal, and to Fiji, helping her in those research projects. And I think that was an eye-opener for me. And I was like, this is it. I want to do global health. And after that, so that was my decision. OK, global health, but what in global health, and how would I do that? And you know how we all talk about once you decide something, things just happen for you. And so it was one of those days in 2016, I told my husband, actually, I said, you know what, let's pack up everything and go to India, because we'll find some interesting projects to work on. We had nothing planned. And he was more than happy to quit his job. And he said, yeah, let's do that. And I said, OK, by summer, we should pack up and go. And within 2 weeks of that decision that we made, I run into, again, at a networking meeting, talking about networking here, and so that's a theme that you should all focus on, is networking. I went to a networking meeting in San Francisco on global health, and there was Pronto International. They had a booth there. I didn't know who they were. I just went there and I said, who are you? What do you do? And they said they are into maternal health. They work globally, and they've just started a new project in Bihar. And I said, I'm moving to India in summer. If you need any help, I'm willing to help. And I didn't know anything about maternal health. I didn't know how nonprofits worked in India. I didn't know public health. Never worked in India before. But they were willing to take a chance with me, and I was willing to take a chance with them. And they said, OK, we don't have any budget for you. But I said, doesn't matter. I'm ready. I know I want to do something. That was 2016. Moved back to India. I started working with them, and it's 2024 now.
Yep, 8 years.
I'm still working with Pronto International. And it was the most rewarding experience I've had.
Fantastic. No, it is a round of applause for the... So let me start with Seema on the second round. The reason I say that is because there is a theme of US-India relationship. I know there are public going here. Where do you think, in your opinion, because you've been on the ground in India, where really, and now India, ahead in technology, with an eye on biotechnology, making a really mark on the global front, which is an area that really can be an area where India, US can really work and make a difference? Global health also, but I want you to also think larger.
Right.
So would love to hear your thoughts.
And I think all day today we have been hearing that theme.
Yes, we did.
Right? So this is the time, actually it has been a time, like for the past few years, where India is at the cusp of all these advances that are happening, and all the cross-border things happening, and US-India integrations happening. So I would say, because I'm a pharmaceutical scientist to begin with, definitely pharma is definitely something that's been going on for a long time, starting with generics, but actually moving up higher up on the chain. That definitely is an option, and so is the biosimilars. I think biosimilars are a big thing now, and India is ready to take that on and is already doing that. But talking about that whole session on AI that we talked about today, and there are so many options or so many opportunities there. Taking this healthcare to home, I think who talked about that? Bringing these diagnostics home, especially with cardiovascular, diabetes, all of these.
Jared talked, yeah.
Jared talked about that, right? bringing it in home. I think that's a huge opportunity for people here and taking it to India and developing in partnership. And anything you do in India, numbers, I mean, right? You don't have to worry about the numbers. You get the multiples over there. So I think dealing with taking your technology-led things, AI, and I would also talk about global health because I was talking about building virtual platforms for learning and the whole learning management system, because capacity building is huge in India, and we really, really need that. So that can also be a very profitable business.
Great,
so
great.
I'll
I saw 5-minute mark, so
Yeah.
we have only 30 minutes, not 45 then. Is that what it is? Yes? Yeah. Okay. All right, that's new. That's okay. We'll manage. There is a lot of exciting stuff. I do think that we should take a new disease like TB. Somebody mentioned TB.
TB, yes.
And create a cure for TB and invest in great biology and everything. And India should come up and treat TB in the whole world. That is something that India and the Indian ecosystem can do.
And
we have to
TB
pick something that will be an aha moment for us. But
And
that's my
along with-
opinion.
no, but
right now
along
I'm
with that-
asking about
sorry.
your opinions.
Along with that,
Extending. Okay.
we talked about malaria also. So
Malaria too.
malaria, dengue, chikungunya, all of these, they definitely can come from India now.
Yeah, that's great. Shalab, let me ask you a question. You've founded multiple companies. You've listed your company in NASDAQ. You're a physician yourself. Help us understand, to make your company successful, what do you think an entrepreneur is? Which is the best quality that you had to show to make your company successful? Let's take that question.
So there are three parts. A lot of people ask this question. I think Anish, Seema talked about networking. You can have a general idea about where you want to go, which I call a destination. And I always give an example. There are three ways to go from here to, if you want to go to San Francisco, 280, 101, or El Camino. You cannot decide which path is the best path for you, but as long as you know your destination, with the help and the being flexible, you can find your journey there. You asked the question about being an entrepreneur. I think there are three parts. People especially ask about how do I raise money. I'll just share with you. Anish started with this saying that there is a story part. People don't buy product, don't buy patent, don't invest in patent, don't invest in a business plan. People invest in a story. So that's the first part in terms of if you want to raise money. Number two part is your product. Product is important, but how it fits into the marketplace, what's the competitive positioning, how it is better. By the time you get it to market, how it will be competing with other products in the market. So that's number two. And the third part is the team, because at the end of the day, we are all beneficiary of all of you who are here. And we are here because we believe not that we can tell you something, but we can learn from you. So that's the part about the team. So those are the three components.
Fantastic.
And I think the last part is that as it relates to being an entrepreneur, Jagat talked about being an entrepreneur within Genentech. So I think entrepreneurship is a state of mind more than the title, because you can have a title, but before you can lead anybody else, I always tell people you have to lead yourself. And leading yourself may be a really hard thing to do, because some days you may not want to do either the right thing, or you want to doing things that really matter. So it's a motivation that you have to find within yourself.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Shalab. Let me ask Jagat a question. Jagat, as a scientist, founder, in this capital-constrained environment that we all have felt, and all the entrepreneurs in the room are feeling that, and somebody called about being an entrepreneur as suffering. I think it was Manoj, very rightly said that. But in this capital-constrained environment, what has been your guiding North Star? How have you managed the company and build the platform?
No, that's actually a great question. I will take platform first and then capital constraint. So, when we are thinking about this company, one thing is, how are you going to be different from others? This is what everyone asks. How are you differentiated? We all have two hands, right? You agree?
Yes.
Yes?
Last I checked.
Have you ever thought of having 4 hands? When you're multitasking, I wish I had 2 more hands. You say this, right? Simple. Antibodies have 2 hands, 2 arms, okay? So we wanted to build antibody with 4 arms, okay? And typical antibody, those 2 arms do same thing. Now imagine these 4 arms doing 4 different things. So that's our technology, basically. So we want an antibody to many different things and deliver a drug on top of it. So we built a platform called TetraMab that is a tetravalent multi-specific antibody, TetraMab in short. And we attach to the TetraMab a chemotherapy drug. Now what the TetraMab does, not only delivers the chemo to your tumor site, but it interacts multiple things, multiple mechanisms on the cancer interface, and then does better job. So, and there is nothing like a new target in the cancer landscape. Every target is known. So what we are trying to do, basically, all the drugs that failed in phase 1, we are actually making them successful, as simple as that. I take 2 failed phase 1 drugs, combine them with my TetraMab, and make it successful. The first partnership we signed 2 years ago, we delivered the molecule like last month. We had a press release on that. So the idea works. So we have shown preclinical model, fantastic data. It was really good. Now, how do we build that idea around and build more products? So coming back to the capital constraint, actually when we started this company in 2021, and we thought, let's go with the family and friends. We didn't go to traditional VCs. And my family friends, nothing but Genentech, EPPIC, science gurus. They all invested into the company. Actually, some of my friends asked, are you sure you want to do this? Every day I wake up, I think about my family friends. How do I deliver this to them? Basically, that's what keep waking me every day, and that's what motivates me to every day go to work and deliver this promise that what I did to them, actually. So we raised $8.3 million 3 years ago. That's not enough to run a company for too long. And of course, a lot of constraint. But the team is very, very important. A team is actually who understand the situation. So all the team actually, whom I know for 20 years, and they all know what we have to do. We are very frugal with super focus and ultimate mission to deliver best possible drug to a cancer patient. So that's what we have been actually surviving with that motivation. And I'm hoping that dream will come true one day.
It will. And persistence and grit is really what is needed in this capital-constrained environment. Let me turn to Anish. Anish, you are a physician turned entrepreneur, founding the company, and with an eye now to commercializing the medicine. Let me ask you, how have you navigated? I mean, are you involved in the nitty-gritties of clinical development, or have to step back? And as a founder, CEO, how has you've managed that within the company to keep everybody motivated, not go too deep or stay back? So some thoughts about managing people and products as you see success and taking the company to the next level, commercialization, basically.
I think that when you're small, when we initially went public, we were 4 people, literally 4 people. And we were on a loan from one of our investors to go public. When you're small, you kind of have to do it all. And just being a physician, being interested, I've always been very involved in the clinical development side of things. And I still stay involved, but I'm starting to see that may not be the best idea. There's a lot of other things to do, but most importantly probably is the reality of being a commercial organization. And one of my commercial colleagues is in the audience right now, and you can ask him later if this is true or false. But I think commercial for me is very different, and I don't have an option but to step back. I stay informed, but I try not to get in the way. And I hope at the end of the day, that's what I'm able to do with the other stuff. I think what's really important, though, being a founder, CEO, being a physician, whatever, other than the team, the financing, all of that's important. I think what's most important is conviction. You have to really believe that whatever you're working on is real. And you have to ask an honest question of yourself that, am I saying that I want to go raise another, $100 million to do this trial? because I've been doing this for 10 years and this cannot fail? Or do I truly believe this is real and it'll work? So I think at the core of all of that, you have to really ask that question.
Conviction. Absolutely. Well said. Let me ask Seema a really different question. Since you took up the position as the CEO, as a community, biotech community, we have made some progress, a little bit of progress in diversity, promoting more women in C-suite boards. Last I heard, there are about only 20% women CEOs on biotech companies. But still, women remain grossly underrepresented in C-suites, startup. What advice do you have for women entrepreneurs, which I've found there are quite a few in our audience today, to be successful? Any advice would be helpful.
Well, I was expecting this question, Sanjeev. But a very important question, and I'm happy to answer it. And it's true, actually, both for women and men. Is like, there is no one route to success, right? It depends on who you are, how you work, and all the ecosystem around you. But some of the key things are, especially for women here, is in general, we see that women are always looking for perfection first before they even go and approach somebody or say something. They want everything to be just right. And I think we have to realize that perfection is just, it doesn't exist kind of thing. So you have to be comfortable with, okay, I may not know 100% or I may not be perfect, but I'm ready to take the next level. So I think that's very important. And usually women don't do this as well as men do. So I think that's a big difference. The other thing I would say is, I'll go back to networking here, always try to find, and this goes for both the genders, is always try to find mentors or networking opportunities and go a little beyond your comfort zone, because many times, you're just not comfortable doing certain things, like, for example, networking. But I think you have to say, okay, I have to go to the next level because this is important for, where I want to be. I think the good news for women, I think right now is, more and more we hear about leadership styles. And in the last few years, last decade or so, you are hearing more about what leadership styles are, considered good. And you'll hear all about listening, compassion, empathy, consensus building, teamwork. And those are, in general, more feminine qualities, right? So more and more people are realizing that you do need those to lead an organization or to go much farther along. So I think that's a good news for women. But in general, I would say, own your own story, get up and talk, network, and don't wait for that perfect moment to go to the next level.
Well said. Go out of your comfort zone. I would even go so far to say that have your own personal advisory board. Founder, CEO, or any entrepreneur journey is very lonely. You can't tell your employees, nor your board, nor your wife or spouse. There's somebody you need to be able to share what's happening, even without a CDA. It's understood truths between, and find that. And so today, you have 5 people that you can approach to, all the entrepreneurs, and they will open you because you were here. So with that, round of applause to all our founders.